for hacking into the Facebook account of Cameroon's election watchdog, Ileka. Those are our lead stories. Hello, welcome to the 7:30 news. I am Ben Menopufong.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Thanks for being there. Progress on three major motorway projects currently under execution in Cameroon were under scrutiny today in Yaoundé as the cabinet met in its routine monthly come-together. The July session examined the evolution of work on the Yaoundé-Douala, Yaoundé-NSIMALEN and the Kribi-Edea-Lolabe motorways, which are all experiencing one form of setback or the other. As Christian Chair Atam reports from the Star Building, today's cabinet meeting, the first to be held via video conferencing, also examined the situation of the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon today. Christian?
The three motorways which were under examination during the cabinet meeting have important roles to play in Cameroon's economic growth, international exchanges between the north and the south, facilitating the clearance of goods from the Kribi Deep Seaport, and ensuring rapid access to the nation's capital from the NSIMALEN International Airport. All these projects have encountered setbacks which have slowed down their execution and kept them behind schedule. Prime Minister Joseph Diongute and members of cabinet used this session to identify the difficulties in order to bring new impetus in the construction of the motorways. Concerning the Yaoundé-Douala motorway, Public Works Minister Emmanuel Gano Jomisi said the first phase is over 90% complete. He said it suffered setbacks due to difficulties with the payment of compensation. An experience which he says will help in the execution of the second phase of the project as well as that of the Idea-Kribi stretch. Concerning the Yaoundé-NSIMALEN motorway, Housing and Urban Development Minister Celestine Kecha-Kotes said the rural stretch of about 11 kilometers is over 90% complete. The minister said the payment of compensation also posed a problem during this phase. Prime Minister Joseph Diongute has instructed the two ministers and all directly or indirectly concerned with the execution of the project to pay particular attention to the issue of compensation in order to accelerate the projects. In the course of the meeting, the latest statistics on the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic was also presented by the Minister of Public Health. Madauda Malachi revealed that about 17,255 positive cases have been detected in Cameroon so far, with 15,320 of them already declared healed.
Today's area of focus at the cabinet meeting brought into the fore the need to reactivate and boost the public-private partnership, especially in the domain of project execution. And as Joyce Kimbi-Fawaja says, this will not only contribute in marshalling the required funds for the projects, but also speed up the pace of project execution in Cameroon.
The global financial crisis of 2008, more than ever, necessitated the dealings of public-private partnerships in the realization of big infrastructural projects, both in developed and developing countries like Cameroon. Within that economic scenario, our country also witnessed a consistent shrink in its treasury strength, thereby threatening the smooth construction of ongoing infrastructural projects in the country. As one of its remedial options, government, amongst others, sought additional ways of raising funds, like through the selling of treasury bonds, but Cameroon, above all, boosted its public-private partnership dealings to foster ongoing constructions of its projects. Beyond the provision of funds, the private sector in its partnership with government also provides innovations and up-to-date technologies as seen in the proposed automation of the country's toll gates and the construction of its motorways like the Yaoundé-Douala motorway, amongst others. The Build, Operate, Transfer financing module is also being exploited in the public-private partnership marriage in Cameroon, an advantage that government gives no franc in the realization of the project under this giving. Reason for the putting in place of the follow-up committee in charge of public-private partnership under the Ministry of Public Works. This to minimize any regrets.
Prime Minister Joseph John Gute has commended the control measures put in place at the Yaoundé NSIMALEN International Airport to monitor and screen both arriving and departing passengers for COVID-19. The PM was speaking after inspecting health and security measures deployed at the airport to prevent the importation of new cases of the coronavirus into the country. Christian Cheatam reports that the inspection visit was in preparation for an eventual reopening of Cameroon's airspace to international traffic.
After months of preparations to make the different entry points into Cameroon coronavirus-proof, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute visited the Yaoundé NSIMALEN International Airport this Wednesday to see how well those preparations translate into reality. The head of government inspected the complete circuit taken by both arriving and departing passengers to make an on-the-spot assessment of measures taken so far to prevent the importation of new coronavirus cases. Joseph John Gute went from the main entrance to the airport, where only travelers are allowed, through the thermal cameras installed for temperature checks, to the health workers ready to spray the departing passengers, the distancing indications on the floor to prevent contact, as well as the scrupulous police checks and spacing measures in the waiting room, also caught the attention of the Prime Minister. Concerning arriving passengers, Joseph John Gute was shown through the long corridor where thermal cameras and health workers are ready to check the temperature of arriving passengers and to decontaminate their belongings. The sanitary control post, where a COVID-19 negative test of not more than 3 days old is required of all arriving travelers, as well as installations for the testing of travelers who do not dispose of COVID-19 tests.
At the end of the inspection visit, Prime Minister Joseph John Gute expressed satisfaction with what he saw on the ground, calling on the health personnel at the airport not to relent in their efforts. Let's now take a listen to the PM's declaration after the airport stopover.
I have just gone through the circuit, and I think that the fact that we require a certificate to show that people coming in are free from the virus, and that even when they come in, all the conditions are present to ensure that we're not going to import the virus into the country. I think these measures give us the necessary confidence to advise and report to the head of state for him to be able to take the necessary measures to open our frontiers for international air travel. With respect to our land borders, obviously we need, with the Delegate General for National Security and the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Health, to verify that, to ensure that also at that level things can go on normally.
A treatment center for hepatitis has been created and inaugurated in Bertuari Regional Hospital in the East region of the country. It goes operational with the installation today of the members of the committee in charge of the functioning of the center by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Public Health, Louis Richard Njok. He also launched on behalf of the Minister of Public Health the 2020 edition of the World Hepatitis Day and the 10th edition of the National Month for the Fight Against Hepatitis. Details with Elizabeth Mbomboni-Agbo from CRTV East.
He is a bearer of good news to the people of the East region at a time when an average of 8 to 15 persons get contaminated with viral hepatitis on a yearly basis. The 2020 edition of the World Hepatitis Day and the 10th edition of the National Month in the Fight Against Hepatitis launched at the Esplanade of the Bertuari Regional Hospital in the presence of the East Regional Governor has as theme Hepatitis Free Future.
Viral hepatitis is a major problem of health in Cameroon. We therefore come here in the Eastern region to create and look at for the functioning of the center which will follow the patients and treat the patients.
As the treatment for hepatitis get decentralized and the regional committee members installed, the future can only be hepatitis-free for the population in the land of the rising sun.
Cameroon and the globe have thus been marking World Hepatitis Day 2020 with activities geared towards moving into a hepatitis-free future. Focus this year is on preventing hepatitis B among mothers and newborns. Alice May now talks us through the cost and treatment of the pathology in Cameroon today.
Health experts say before now, the cost of hepatitis in Cameroon per patient ranged from 8 to 10 million CFA francs. With the intervention of the government, the cost has been subsidized.
It is 100 per month, and the duration is 3 months or 6 months, depending on the severity of the disease. The average cost of treatment is, let's say, 300,000 for a period of 3 months. This is for hepatitis C. It is still expensive, but if you realize that in 2010, people were spending more than 8 million to be treated for 1 year, and even for only 50% of chances to be cured.
Treatment depends on the type and state of individual patients.
For chronic viral hepatitis, the aim of the treatment depends on the type of the virus, as I said. In chronic viral hepatitis C, the aim of the treatment is to heal the disease, to cure the disease, and to make in such a way that the disease disappear completely on our system.
In Cameroon, about 8% of the population is affected with hepatitis B, and only 10% are aware of their situation. Medical practitioners say the prevention of hepatitis entails vaccinations, use of sterilized equipment, and avoidance of saliva and liquid transmission.
2 men suspected to have hacked into the Facebook account of Elections Cameroon have been arrested and currently under custody at the Judicial Police Headquarters here in Yaoundé. Presenting them to the media, police officials said they will be prosecuted for cyber criminality and risk a prison term of 5 to 10 years if found guilty. They were arrested thanks to the investigating and geolocalization tip-offs from officials of the National Agency for Communication and Communication Technologies, ANTIC. Emanuela Vamyoy reports.
They walk into their new dwelling place, the Judicial Police Headquarters in Yaoundé. Accused of hacking into the Facebook account of Elections Cameroon, these 2 individuals have been arrested thanks to work done by the National Agency for Information and Communication Technologies, ANTIC.
Based on the evidence which we collected, going through the various machines and the people who were monitoring these pages at ELECAM, we were able to gather information which permitted us to get the identification and the geolocation of these individuals. The information from their digital terminals, as well as the statements during their hearings, confirmed that they were involved in those attacks.
Presenting them to the media, elements of the Judicial Police say they shall be tried for cyber crimes.
They hacked into the account of one of the administrators of the ELECAM page and got to publish obscene information. They run the risk of a prison term of 5 to 10 years.
Until their fate is decided before a prosecutor, they remain behind bars to gnash their teeth for trying to play smart with ICTs.
A 2-day workshop to validate a study on transiting the handicraft sector in Cameroon from the informal to the formal economy opened in Yaoundé today. The study proposes diverse avenues of incentives that will stimulate craftspersons to transform the sector and be able to yield greater dividends from it. Ewane Pole reports.
Cameroon has about 70,000 craftsmen involved in various activities, which include wood, textile, construction, leather and steel, among others. 80% of them work in the informal sector, according to officials of the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, Social Economy and Handicraft. The 2-day workshop in Yaoundé, grouping stakeholders of the handicraft sector, is to adopt and validate pertinent actions to assist craft enterprises.
The taxes, we can talk about financial support, other facilities which can help them to make their business.
Participants in the workshop are expected to propose incentives aimed at boosting the formulation of craft people and craft enterprises to incite their migration from the informal to the formal economy.
Act 3 of our series on the programming of musical works on radio stations focuses tonight on what it takes musicians and producers to promote their works in terms of cost. At FM stations, for instance, payments are often requested from the artists and producers for their works to feature on the playlist. However, most of the artists and producers are complaining that the deal is hardly ever respected, reason why they have opted for alternative and cheaper modes of promotion, the most available being the social media. Romeo Kenye is our man on the beat.
When there is life, there is hope.
A typical grass field rhythm from Cameroon with a precise message, yet its promotion on radio airwaves is rare.
Production fee in Cameroon is very expensive for us. To promote on air at one spot is 50,300 francs. So you take it for 30 days, you see how much it can cost.
You can't bring an album outside and you don't use in your communication radio.
If the radio remains an indispensable communication tool for many, some musicians regret that they have rather been extorted through this platform. This has pushed them to go for alternative ways to make their talent known.
Allô, Grand Barack. Tu sais qu'on doit faire le buzz avec la chanson là, non? Il faut vraiment réfléchir sur les paroles.
My relationship with radio was very bad because I used to pay my services, but they don't broadcast it. I decided to go to the internet to be popular.
You see artists with good songs, with good music, and you discover that they are only found but on Facebook and WhatsApp.
At a time many scramble to gain fame in the music world, artists hope government will soon help them in promoting their works by instituting a promotion rate that suits all.
Book professionals in Cameroon have expressed gratitude to the head of state for promulgating into law the bill regulating the arts and cultural associations in the country. They handed over their message of appreciation in Yaoundé today to the Minister of Arts and Culture, Bidungpat, saying it will enable them lift their heads above water in this digital era. Here now is an excerpt of one of the book professionals as he spoke to our reporter, Joyce Tata.
We'll also go a long way to promote the Cameroon publishers, the bookshop, the distributors, so that we can be able to enjoy the Cameroon fruits. As the head of state has promulgated, there will be libraries all over, in all sub-regions, in all regions, in all these districts heads. That's why I say this will go a long way to help our children to be able to read and write. Even those who did not go to school will be able to come back and read and write.
Proper health hygiene is being recommended by for nursing mothers as one of the ways of avoiding contamination by the coronavirus. Reason why gynecologists say that nursing mothers and newborn babies should observe a special kind of hygiene before, during, and after delivery. Baldwin Sama is at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center with Dr. Brigitte Wanje, with whom he explores the issues of hygiene in relation to nursing mothers. Hello, Baldwin. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, Ben Meno Pufong. Statistics from the Emergency Operations Center this evening revealed to us that so far we have 17,255 confirmed cases of Cameroonians tested positive for COVID-19. 15,320 Cameroonians have so far recovered from COVID-19, and we have had 387 Cameroonians who have died of COVID-19 in the country so far, leaving us with a total number of 1,548 active cases cases, persons living with the virus in the country. Tonight, we shall be looking at what hygiene should be required for nursing mothers and equally pregnant women in order to avoid the spread of COVID-19. We shall be discussing that with our guest, Dr. Bridget Wanji. She is a gynecologist. Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
Tell us, doctor, what kind of hygienic conditions are required for pregnant women and equally nursing mothers in order to limit the spread of COVID-19?
Well, Baldwin, like we all know, delivery is a process where there must exist some form of contact between the patients who are in labor and the healthcare personnel. So if you have to limit the spread of COVID-19 in this process, it's all about creating some form of distancing. But in the case of delivery, it's not about physical distancing per se, but it's about creating some form of barrier. And the barrier measures that are used for this purpose are personal protective equipment, which are given to the healthcare personnel who are assisting the women who are having their babies. So these personal protective equipment, what do they entail? We have the usage of the mask. Like everybody knows, we need a mask. But in the case of women who are confirmed, we need specialized masks which can filter the viral particles better than the ordinary mask. The healthcare personnel equally have to wear protective goggles, face shields, a surgical cap, and then even protective overalls, because sometimes during labor and delivery, we have splashing of fluids and you know, we know splashing of fluids, especially the ones from the respiratory tract, are what are responsible for transmission of the COVID. So basically that is it about prevention of transmission during labor. And one other thing is, even the women who are in labor are supposed to wear a face mask, because we're talking here about transmission that can be in both sides, from the health personnel to the women or from the women to the healthcare personnel.
And finally, doctor, what about the case of babies unborn and the newborn babies, in order for them not to get infected? What health hygienic conditions are needed?
As of now, Baldwin, we don't have any proof that there's transmission of COVID disease from the mother to the child during delivery or after delivery by breastfeeding. So what is encouraged after delivery is that the woman should stay as much as possible close with her baby, but we're still respecting the distancing measures while in the same room with the baby. But what the mother would have to do is to keep the baby in a separate cot and keep a little distance away. The mother has to permanently wearing a mask during the process, and especially during breastfeeding. The mother has to wash her hands often as possible, avoid touching the baby's eyes, the baby's nostrils, the baby's ears. So it's about creating a distance as much and as often as possible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bridget Wanji. You are a gynecologist, and just to remind our viewers, as far as the statistics are concerned, 17,255 Cameroonians tested positive for COVID-19, 15,320 have recovered from COVID-19, 387 Cameroonians have died so far from COVID-19, with 1,548 active cases in the country so far. Back to you, Ben Menopufo.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama, for those updates from the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. The outgoing head of the European Union delegation to Cameroon, His Excellency Peter Shadek, says Cameroon and the European Union have common interest in several domains, among them trade, regional peace and security. He was speaking today in Yaoundé after a farewell audience granted him by the Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Bella. During the farewell audience, both men discussed cooperation between Cameroon and the European Union. And the Council of Ministers of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECOWAS, has held a meeting of experts in Yaoundé ahead of the 17th ordinary session of the Head of States and Government Conference that will be taking place here in Yaoundé. Today's meeting of experts focused on the appropriation of institutional reforms among the member states of ECOWAS. Caroline Okie-Anoma now sizes up the stakes of the upcoming Heads of States and Governments Conference.
Established in the early 80s to strengthen economic cooperation among member states and promote regional integration in Central Africa, The Economic Community of Central African States have since then been working hard to effectively meet contemporary challenges facing its member states on one hand and to meet continental standards on the other. It is in that light that the steering committee made up of its member states came up with the following: 1. Putting in place of a new ACAS executive body. 2. Revise ACAS treaty. 3. Revise the organic framework of ACAS Commission and appointment of its members. 4. Examine the financial contributions of member states, which has already cleared about 40% of majority of member states' arrears, as well as approve the community's draft action program and general budget for the 2020 financial year. There will also be the pre-selection of actions in the Commission in conformity with binding laws, which of course will be at stake. Tomorrow's Conference of Heads of State and Government via video conference precedes the 17th Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers of Foreign/External Affairs, in which Cameroon's Lejeune Belambela participated.
And now, in relation with that conference, this is a press release from the Cabinet of the Prime Minister's Office, and it reads, on the esteemed instructions of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph John Gute, shall represent the Head of State at the 17th Ordinary Session of the Conference of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, that will hold on the 30th of July 2020 at 10 a.m. through video conferencing. And that release has been signed by the Director of Cabinet at the Prime Minister's Office, Balungeli Confiance Ebune. Authorities of the Kribi Deep Seaport have signed a partnership agreement with the International Container Terminal Service for the management, the Philippines International Container Service for the management for 25 years of the Kribi Deep Seaport. The convention marks a new era in the management of the container terminal and ends the subcontracting services of the Cameroon partner, the Kribi Port multiple operators. Cyril Nwazeke reports that the Philippine giant is expected to boost the competitiveness of the Kribi Deep Seaport.
By granting concession to a new partner for the management of the multipurpose terminal, the Kribi Deep Seaport hopes to multiply profit as more than before. The Philippine giant ICTS, International Container Terminal Services, has therefore been tasked by the management of the port to put their highly reputed experience to work for immediate results.
I can assure you that Kribi Multipurpose Terminal is a very, very, very competent company. We are very confident that this concession will change the operation on the Kribi Multipurpose Terminal.
Cognizant of the fact that the Kribi port is a growing hub, KMT Kribi Multipurpose Terminal and affiliates to ICTS hopes to rise up to expectations as the second phase previews the acquisition of up-to-date equipment, prolonging a protection dike of 675 meters among others.
Our project is to help the town to develop Kribi, but also the Cameroon and the interland countries. We are very glad to have signed that contract today. It has been a long way, so we really thank the head of state.
The Philippines take over from the no-nonsense Cameroonian partner, Kribi Port Multiple Operators, KPMO, who had spent roughly 2 years of subcontracting services managing the 265 meters long multipurpose terminal. It is expected that these foreign expertise will come to join the national experience to settle the dust for a more competitive multipurpose terminal for the second phase on the way.
Our time is up. Thanks for yours. Good night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.